Welcome, my friend, to Next Level Change Success. I'm Therese Perez, a change strategist and practitioner with over 20 years of experience designing and delivering impactful change programs across various industries. In this podcast, I share real-world practical strategies to help you create and deliver positive change experiences, whether you're a leader, practitioner, or someone looking to bring new ways of working to life. In today's fast-paced world, change is constant. Here we focus on how you can put people at the centre of your change strategy, because people with a sense of purpose are the most important link in driving performance. So if you're ready to create meaningful change and achieve all the success that comes with it, keep listening. Together, let's change the conversation and take it to the next level. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Next Level Change Success. My name is Therese Perez and I am the founder of myvirtualchangemanager.com. And before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that I am recording on Tharawal country and pay my respects to the traditional owners and custodians on the land on which I am recording, and to elders both past, present and emerging. So today's all about how your ways of working are a change approach in and of itself. And oftentimes when I've come in working on a program, or I've come in on a project, or even when looking at an organizational transformation, it's about the rhythms and engagement rhythms, the flow of information. Are those channels clear? And when you think about engagement in our everyday life, engagement's about commitment, it's about connection, and that is why oftentimes we talk in the change context about what's your engagement framework, what's the rhythm that you've put into place, and is it appropriate for where you are in the change that you're rolling out? Because typically if you're starting to get momentum in your change, your engagement interventions, your engagement activities, they become more frequent, they might become deeper, it might need a longer time commitment with some individuals so that you can make sure everyone's on the same page, that everyone is engaged. And even if you think about the definition of engagement, it talks about the commitment aspects, because we've got engagement insofar as marriage, which is a deep commitment. We talk about engagement insofar as battle, to engage with someone is to, in battle, it's a term, a verb around you engaged with the enemy. So definitely around engagement in that context as well, which is sometimes what engagements are. They're there to decompress any sort of building tension that there might be, or sometimes they do result in conflict as an engagement. If you've been to community forums, sometimes that is exactly what happens from an engagement perspective. If you think about employee engagement, it's about the mental, emotional connection that an employee has with an organization. So if you think about it in a change context, it is also important around the emotion, the mental state in which people are engaging with the program, the sentiment, the feel for that, and setting your program or your business as usual change up for success. If you are at an enterprise level, think about your governance forums. And when I mean by governance, and you may not be in an organization that requires it, but a lot of organizations do come unstuck if they're quite sizable and they're not very clear on their decision-making forums, which is exactly what governance is all about. Are there regular meetings? Is there regular oversight in an organization to ensure that the information flow is where it should be, where decisions are made in the appropriate forums and everyone's clear on that, and the accountability in that forum? And one of the key things in these type of forums is about that information flow. So if decisions are made, if the information's not necessarily confidential, can that be released to team members, or how is that communicated to team members after forums, which is one of the biggest pain points that people have in organizations, is not getting information from their leader to be able to act upon, or they didn't realize that they were on the hook to deliver something because their leader never let them know, even though a decision was made in a forum. So engagement's about that information flow. And as I mentioned, when starting on a project or looking at a change, those type of intersections with whether it be regular meeting cadence that you can input information into, but then also ensure that decisions are being lined up and made in the right forums, really does help around the change process and almost improving that information flow, which is often the case, does have people become more invested in the change, which is an outcome of engagement. Is that level, you want to generate a level of investment into the change as part of that framework. The starting point, of course, is making sure that you know who your stakeholders are, who's got skin in the game, who's going to be impacted, and layering those and sorting those out by hierarchy, mainly because in many organizations, hierarchy matters, and people will listen to their leader, but not necessarily to a leader of a peer group, mainly because the direction from their leader is more important and they may not want to get caught in the middle as such. So they're always going to listen to their direct leader, who essentially pays their bills. And that is regardless of whether an organization is flat in its structure. At the end of the day, people do listen to their leader, and their leader, because of the hierarchy concept, is the banker, I guess, and the one who ensures that the individual will either be on board through the whole journey or not. And if the person's struggling from a capacity perspective and you haven't engaged their leader on the change, then you have to go through that process of engaging the leader so that that individual has the capacity and priority that you need to get your outcome achieved. So stakeholder landscaping, make sure that you know who's who, and also the hierarchy, who reports into who, is really important. There is a way in which people will categorize stakeholders. I particularly do not like that method. I'm not a big ambassador of that. For stakeholders, part of it is just understanding who is going to be the voice of the change, and that may not be the person who's funding the change. And I talked about this last year in an episode, that sometimes your project sponsors are not your change sponsors, and you need to make sure that you've mapped that out and make that quite clear, and then engage with the business areas who are impacted in their leadership group around how they're going to lead the change is going to be more effective than having someone from a support service area talk to those teams about the change, because once again, they will listen to their leader first. So getting that model right is important, getting the groupings right. And sometimes the groupings is not just about making sure that emails are sent to the right leadership team. It's actually about making sure that the leaders are engaged by their peers in the change, and that they're being asked to support their peer in getting this delivered, that the group is a cohort who are collectively on board and on message. And certainly at the senior levels, that's important. At the lower levels, you will always have groups who are more impacted than others. So a bit of comparative mapping is good so that you know where to focus your efforts, which should be to those who are impacted the most. So map your stakeholders, have a look at current engagement forums that exist within the organization that you can leverage. If there's high impact or it's a transformation, you very well may need to create forums yourself to be able to get the engagement level that you want with certain groups. Consider all sorts of different types of activities that you could do. And if you're on the change aspect, so if you're the project manager and you're thinking, okay, well, I'm trying to understand how to engage my stakeholders better, then your cadence and rhythm. I see this often, that there is this, and I'm not sure why it exists, but almost this I talk to these individuals approach versus I get them all in a room and we come together as a collective. Every day of the week, I would always have everyone in as a collective, and not have to go, even from a timing perspective, have to go to all these individual areas. It's just not practical. It's not sustainable. And you want to make sure that you can really focus and also create a joint momentum, which is for everyone to be in the same group. being part of something. There is a sense when you're a part of a team or you're in a meeting and they're talking about a project or program, even if it impacts your area just a little bit, you may want to show up and really participate because you're contributing to a collective, hopefully, success. So the project manager, if you're the project manager or even the change person, I would highly recommend that you would create that space and those working groups effectively. That can be difficult in times of transformation from a change perspective. You might have your change working group, and then you also need to participate in the project working group, which is all part of that linking modeling that happens where if you mapped out visually the different working groups, who's in what, you could see where there are duplication or extension. And I talk about there is a difference between extension versus duplication. Duplication is that the person may not be in the right forum. Because typically people from the business will belong because of hierarchy in one forum, but there has to be a connecting point between one group to the other, which helps facilitate flow of information. Typically that will be a project manager or a change manager. If it's an operating model type governance hierarchy or meeting flow, think about there might be a certain general manager who is then at the operational meeting who helps that connection point between that one working group up, which would be full of general managers, through to the operational meeting. So you need to kind of think about how general managers or leaders can connect in forums and not necessarily duplicate. And consider in a program environment, the project manager and the change manager can be that connecting piece as long as they're conscious of it and they leverage it and work with it. These are the things to consider. So if you mapped it out visually, you would be making sure that certain participants are in multiple forums, but just the right participants so that they're on board. Do not expect a business person, a subject matter expert, to be that connector point unless they are a business project representative or project manager, because they will often see themselves, which is quite right, in their role as being the person who is being consulted with or the person who is participating and adding value, but not necessarily on the hook to ensure there's connection between forums. I've got an example of an engagement map for you, just a generic one that you might want to consider. It gives you an idea around the visual. You can find that at myvirtualchangemanager.com and search this episode. So I hope that helps. So consider engagement, understand the intent of it. It is in-depth commitment. It is engaging the person so that they are motivated and enthusiastic about the change and about what's happening. And so therefore the activities that you do with those individuals, typically it's an extensive period of time that they are on that journey with you through the change and through project delivery. And they are a key stakeholder, more than a key stakeholder, they're a partner in the delivery of the program from potentially the business perspective or the technology perspective, or it could be from a compliance perspective, depending upon what type of change you are bringing in. So thank you very much for listening. I hope this added some value in your world. I hope you start to understand that every single meeting you have, every conversation you have, every activity and intervention or engagement that you have, it's actually contributing towards your change journey. And so even change planning and the act of change planning, running impact assessment workshops, this is all part of people coming along that change journey, those change steps that you need to take, but also they will start to connect dots for themselves through participation of those activities and of the planning if you have the luxury of that in your project or change. Once again, go to myvirtualchangemanager.com. I'll just emphasize again, there is an engagement map. Go to myvirtualchangemanager.com, have a look at that, search this episode, Next Level Change Success, and you will find that map and the visual so that you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to change engagement. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening, and subscribe or leave a review. It's how other people will find us. It's really, really important. And we do have some programs coming up. So come and visit us at myvirtualchangemanager.com. Sign up to the newsletter. Stay in touch if you want to develop your skills in a cost-effective, real-world way when it comes to change leadership, change management, or how you influence for change if you are a business subject matter expert who's constantly thrown into projects and you want to deploy them and influence them better and set them up for success. Come and see us. We've got some stuff that will absolutely help you in your world. Have a great day, and just remember that change matters because your people, your purpose, your organization, but most importantly, you matter.